Welcome to Living the Reiki Life podcast. Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Christy, and we're coming at you from the Prairie Province of Saskatchewan, Canada.
We met in the corporate world over a decade ago and became great friends. We started our Reiki journey together, and now we are Reiki masters. Follow along as we navigate life living the spiritual world while still working the 9 to 5.
We gather twice a month to chat all about Reiki and our Reiki journeys, energy healing, and other healing modalities.
We are going to interview some of our gurus and cover a vast majority of topics that we find interesting, and hopefully you do too. Let's get at it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, welcome to episode number 5. So we hope you enjoyed last episode, all about angels. That was our first interview, so that was kind of a big deal to get that out of the way, and hope you enjoyed it. So today is the solstice. We're recording on the solstice, which is like super cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, it's just like such a powerful day, but we'll get into that after we give the astrology forecast. So what's going on in your world, Amanda?
Okay, so our Reiki teacher came actually to Saskatoon. So, like, I just took my master's via Zoom, which was fantastic. Like, it was great. But then she actually ended up coming down. So, I ended up meeting with her for my own Reiki session and doing some inner work and healing. And it was very, very good. So, I knew I still had some healing to do around the birth of my son. So he was born by a C-section. Of course, that wasn't really part of my birth plan, but things happen, and luckily we have Western medicine for a reason, I guess. And anyways, we just had to clear up some of the things. Like when my son was born, I didn't get that skin to skin right away because he was taken and cleaned after the surgery, and I didn't realize how much sadness I was holding on to with that. So had a really good release on her table, like I always do, and we just cleared it out, and it was really beautiful, and just really went into like my subconscious. We even tapped into my son being there and helping, and it was really, really, really good. And then she even gave me my attunements. So every time you complete a Reiki level, you get attunements, and she was able to give me my attunements in person. So we had like a little ceremony for that, which was beautiful. I was super glad. It's just that's not the same over Zoom, because she will write the symbols like on my hands and stuff, and yeah, that was really good. So yeah, that's my cool update.
That's awesome. I remember my master's attunement as well. And yeah, it's just something that sticks with you. And like the writing the symbols with I think it's like the rose water, whatever
Yeah.
she uses. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just magical. I
You
love
know,
that moment.
I gotta say, like our very first attunement we did together when we had our Reiki's level 1 and 2, that was the most moving attunement where like we both cried.
Oh, by far. Yes, that was intense.
Because it was like a whole thing was opening for the first time. Like this is like a next level opening. This was like a brand new thing we were stepping into, and that was so beautiful. Like
Yes.
it made me tear. So
Yeah, I think we were both crying.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was good.
Oh
And how
yeah,
about
that
you?
whole journey is so cool. What do I have to share? I was gonna, yeah, about a little manifestation story that happened the last couple weeks. So it's funny how we forget how powerful we are when our thoughts become things.
Hmm.
And since I have like this big garden space, I wanted one of those like garden claw things. It looks like a little hook, and then you turn it and it like turns up the dirt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I need one of those, but I didn't really want to go buy one like at wherever you'd find one. So I was telling Dad, I was like, hey, if you ever see one like at a garage sale, like pick me up one, because he loves going to garage sales and thrifting. And a week later, he messages me and he's like, look what I found for $5. And it was that tool.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's like,
awesome.
booyah.
That's
So
such a
that was
good
sweet.
story.
Well, and then after that, I was texting with like my herbalist and I was like, "Hey, I have all this green space. Like what should I plant? Like what is like the most important to plant in my garden?" And she's like, "Cucumbers. They're so healing, hydrating, good for your skin." She's like, "Plant a shit ton of them." I was like, "Okay, sweet. I'll grab them when I go to the greenhouse to get flowers and whatever." And then the next day, my brother texts me and he's like, "Hey, I got some extra plants." He's like, "I got 8 extra cucumber plants for some reason. Do you want these?" And I was like, "What? Yeah, of course I do." I was like, "What's the chances of that?" Like, out of all the vegetables, he had 8 cucumber plants.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is very good. So, quick story to go with this. So my dad, I was explaining to him what manifesting was, and I know he's going to listen to this. This is the perfect example of what manifesting into reality is. And he had an experience recently. He was meditating and he had this like it was like a volcano erupting, and then it was like all these gold coins were kind of coming out, and it was something like this. I'm paraphrasing really bad, but he was asking me about it, and I was like, well, it kind of sounds like lottery, like a VLT win, right? This week he went to Manitoba with some friends, and they stopped at the casino, and my dad won over $1,000 on the VLTs.
No
And I
way.
was like, Dad, you manifested this. I was like, you totally did. We talked about it, and you're like, yeah, I think I'm gonna win. Like, it's felt like I was gonna win money when I was meditating. And I was like, totally, you did.
Oh,
And
that's
then
so cool.
yeah, when I was giving him a Reiki session last night, I was over his third eye and I got, he's a manifesting generator. Like, he can manifest stuff. So I said, your words are really powerful. Like, you can manifest things and you should really practice it. Just start small, like your rototiller. Is that what they're called? Like
Yeah, it's like,
to
well, a
grow?
manual one. Yeah, like a little
Yeah.
hook thing. Yeah.
And I was like, just try it out. Try something small and see
Yeah.
where you go.
You got nothing to lose. Like, I'm not
Totally.
manifesting like a house on the lake. It's just
Right?
like something you just, and you have to ask for it. Like, set the
Hmm.
intention and ask out loud.
Yeah.
And, but on the flip side of things, it was funny when I first moved out of town, I was like, oh, how cool would it be to dry my stuff, my clothes outside? Like, I've always wanted like a clothesline. And I was like, oh, it'd be neat. And Troy's like, well, there was one, but I got rid of it. He's like, why do we need one? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just thought it'd be kind of neat. And then 2 days later, the dryer broke. So
Oh,
guess what I'm doing? I am drying my clothes outside.
ooh, that's almost like a
So I don't know what to
careful
think
what
about.
you ask
Yeah,
for.
that's
But
so true.
that's really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I love the smell of like clothes being hung outside. So I mean, you're gonna need a dryer eventually, but I mean, in the meantime,
Yeah, meantime it's okay, but we got like the well water and then drying outside, the towels are like cardboard and shit. It's like, whatever, they're clean.
yeah,
Uh,
lungs are clean.
yeah.
That's good. Okay, so astrology for July 2023. So we have the full thunder moon in on July 3rd in Capricorn, named after the thunderstorms that usually roll in this time of year. This full moon is actually a warning sign for the terrible weather that rolls in. I really have to wonder who actually comes up with these moon names. Like, I didn't realize that almost like every moon I search has like a special name associated to it. Interesting facts I found out. You are more likely to get struck by lightning twice in your lifetime than you are to win the Powerball lottery. So obviously that's in the
Oh.
States. So I mean, it's not very good odds. So in July, if the weather looks like it's going to take a turn for the worst, stay clear of any large bodies of water and tall trees. Go indoors. If it does start to thunder, don't lay on the ground, as the lightning currents can travel through the earth and get you.
Oh.
Yes. Rubber shoes are not going to save you either. So I found this actually fascinating and hilarious because I don't know, like, would I lay on the ground? I wasn't sure, what I would do in a panic. But just go inside always if you can. This actually also plays into a story I have for our past lives episode. I'll get to that later on. So it might be a good idea for the month of July just to, brush up on your lightning safety, as this is officially the month that we are in. The thunder
Oh,
rolls.
yeah. Like I love a good storm, but then the
Hmm.
storm comes and I'm like, oh shit, this
Yeah,
is actually
right.
a little scary. And you
Yeah.
know what's funny? Do you remember like talking on the phone and like being by the window, and my mom would be like, "Get away from the window" when it was like lightning. I was like,
Oh, funny. No.
"Was is the lightning gonna come through the window and strike me?"
That's so funny. No, I don't know. Probably, they're just like, it's not a good idea. You're on the phone.
Yeah, just weird things. And it's funny, like we took apart the deck, and there was like this weird rod, like metal rod in the ground, with like a wire going to the house. And I was like, Troy, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's just like a grounding wire. So he's like, if the house gets struck, it grounds the lightning or something. I was like, oh,
Oh,
that's
neat.
weird. Yeah, never heard of that before. I don't know if
No.
that works, but
Have you seen those grounding rods that you can like put in your yard and then even like connect them up to your mattress to help you ground?
oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I know it is interesting. It's like you plug it into the ground, like the dirt, and then you have this like copper wire that like sends the charge up and into your room and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, we thought about it, but then of course you have to actually do work to make that happen, and we haven't done anything. So,
Yeah, that would take, because if you have to run a wire outside, yeah, that would take a bit.
yeah.
What do you know? Okay, what are we moving on to? The new sturgeon moon. So that is on July 17th in the sign of Cancer. So we're officially Cancer season right now,
Hmm.
and it's the crab season, or more like sturgeon season. This new moon is directly connected with the August full moon, and it's time to catch you some sturgeon. Sturgeons are, have you ever seen a sturgeon like from the river?
Yeah,
They're
they're
like the
gross.
ugliest freaking
Yeah,
fish.
I
Like
know.
they scare me. They look like like a dinosaur age. Like
Yeah, yeah, because they're super long beaks, right?
yeah,
Yeah, no,
and
yeah.
just like weird gills and
I don't
ugh.
think I've ever eaten sturgeon. I don't think I'm gonna start, especially
No,
not
I
in these
don't.
waters. Mm-mm.
No, they'd be full of like heavy metals and yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can even catch, or do you have to release them? I don't even know
No,
if
I
you can keep
have. I
them.
definitely have eaten fish out of our lake. I just don't
Oh,
know if I'd be like too keen to like run to eat fish now. You know?
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what
Hmm.
my dentist was actually saying, that he would never eat any fish from lakes that are surrounded by farmers' fields because all the pesticides leak down into the lake and
Yeah.
affects the fish. And I was like, oh, I never even thought of that.
Yeah. And I was just listening to a really interesting podcast about that as well, about like the mercury levels. So I'm just kind of like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
you
Gotta go up
know?
north.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, probably just hold back. Like it's not gonna upset me to not eat the fish. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I
so,
like it, but it's not like I have to have it.
right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. So the solstice is today. We talked about it on that other episode there, but did you do anything today to celebrate?
Okay, so the solstice today, the weather was awful.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'm taking my son for a walk. We're gonna, start off the day. And it was freezing. The wind was blowing. It was definitely one of the colder days we've had.
Yeah.
But I did have a barbecue with my friends on Monday, so I'm just gonna count that. We ate outside and that was lovely. The weather was beautiful. So I don't know if I can carry that over to today, but oh, I also tried to meditate for about 5 minutes. I'm still working on that. And literally, I would just keep thinking of all the things that I want to do. I even think I texted you once. Like, so those were my efforts today. Oh, and I did have a bath actually, which I'm super thrilled about. So I find that super healing and celebrating in my way. So that
Yes,
counts.
that's right. And there's no right or wrong way to celebrate.
Yeah.
Just taking time for yourself and just like honoring the change of the seasons,
Right? Is a
I
part of
think.
me like secretly kind of happy that we're at the summer solstice today? Because I go to bed at 9 o'clock and it is so bright out still. It's like, oh my God. Like
I know it's bright till
they,
like 10 p.m.
oh, it just crazy. I'm like, the days need to at least go dark at 9 for me.
Yep.
Like,
Shut the blinds.
I know. Like, it's crazy. Like, I would have loved this before, but it's like, no, no thanks.
No.
Yeah. But what about you? What did you do for the summer solstice?
Yeah, I spent time outside. Like I worked today, so of course I was outside on my coffee break, and yeah, it was cold, not like a nice summery day at all. And yeah, went for a walk like in the park and just like admired all the beauty that nature has, like the different trees, and I found like a cool little rose bush like along this one trail, which was really random. And then there was like an oak tree and a willow tree, and yeah, it was just nice to sit, well, not sit, but like walk through there and just admire the beauty and the change of the seasons, because we forget how beautiful earth is when it's so green, because when the winter comes and it's all gone, it's like, oh, why didn't I take in more of that beauty? So
Oh,
that was kind
definitely.
of, yeah, so that was kind of my day. And um I also seen a post on or Instagram about the solstice marks the halfway point, so it's a good time to like check in with yourself and see like what's been working for you, what hasn't, what do you want to let go of to make room for new things. And yeah, it's just a good time to check in. And that's what I'm going to do tonight before I go to bed, just kind of sit and journal like what do I want this other half of the year to hold? Like what do I want to manifest?
That's a really good idea, especially because like how many people are stuck? Like how many people are actually still rocking their New Year's goals? Really? So I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great time. Yeah. It's a great time to check in. And like you still got a whole half of a year. So if you wanted to do something this year, this is a perfect time to like reevaluate and adjust and tweak.
Yep.
That's perfect.
I think so too.
You know, we should give a quick shout out, Christy. So Christy is fostering a dog. And if you hear her cute puppy in the background, just love it
Yes.
because we can't crate him. And he's
No,
the
he
best.
doesn't like that. And now he's chewing on the carpet, so that's great.
So, in case any of our listeners are like, what is that in the background? That's it.
Yeah, it's a pooch.
Yeah. Okay, so Christy and I took our Reiki level 3, where we learned about doing past lives healing. I know that this is, I think, kind of specific to New Earth Angel Reiki. I'm not too sure if other Reiki level 3s learn about past life healing or even helping clients go into a past life regression. But when we learned our level 3, this is what we learned. This and really working on our channeling with spirit and things like that. So we all have many, many past lives, even if you don't remember them. We've had thousands. This is not your first time here. We've had many, many.
Yes. Yeah, the reincarnation is something, I don't know if a lot of people believe in it, but it's something that I've had so many crazy things happen, I can not believe in it. So looking into past lives is another layer of healing that we can do during a Reiki session. So we dive deep into your soul and just see like what has your soul endured through all these past lives, and is it affecting your daily life now? And how we do that is the information is stored in what is called the Akashic records. And this is like the iCloud, I guess is the easiest way to explain it, for absolutely everything your soul has gone through. So it's a library of like every thought, action, interaction, trauma, like the list goes on. Everything like on earth, like absolutely everything has an Akashic record. Like your house, your tree, your pet, and it's amazing to go and access that library and just see what it all holds. But maybe you're wondering why you would want to know about a past life and what kind of healing that can happen. Because someone might be like, well, if it's in the past, why does it matter? Like, do I need to go back and visit it? And there's lots of things that can happen during a past life healing. We could get to like the root of like a physical illness. I listened to Denise Linn. Huge fan of hers. I can link her in the show notes if anyone's interested. but she was healing a woman that had painful ulcers in her stomach. And this woman tried like everything to help heal these ulcers, and they were affecting her day to day life, of course. And it was affecting like her power. Like she felt powerless because that's like the solar plexus. And she came to Denise for a past life session, and Denise saw her being poisoned by her husband. He was putting poison in her food and water, and
That's
eventually killed her.
That's crazy.
Isn't
That's
that awful?
crazy when I read that.
Oh, and yeah, and she ended up dying alone, which dying alone is a really hard thing in a past life to get through. Like that can come up in other ways. But yeah, once she revealed this to this woman, her ulcers did heal and they never came back.
Yes, that is just one example of how important it can be to heal past lives.
Yeah.
Because you will in one way or another, but I feel like going in and doing Reiki is like you're fast tracking that.
Oh, of
You know,
course.
like you're always coming here to balance out the karma and to like fix things like that from past lives, but like going right in like this can definitely save you some, farting around.
Well, yeah. Well, and especially like if you've exhausted all other things and you're like, what else
Hmm.
can I do? So it's interesting that she checked into past lives. And so something else that it can actually help with that I didn't know about was like financial blocks. So in past lives, you can take like a vow of poverty and it can affect you in this lifetime. So I was actually shown a past life where I was a Buddhist monk and he took a vow of poverty. So that means like he has nothing. So
Yeah, he's a
I
monk.
would, yeah, like their dedication is to their beliefs and their meditation. And well, I don't know much about it, but so this affected me in this lifetime where I would receive money and it would just go out as fast as it came. Like I'd manifest like a random $100 and then all of a sudden I'd receive a bill for $100 and there that money would go. So I couldn't save any, I couldn't get ahead. And I ended up clearing this in the Akashic records, and this made a huge difference. I was able to hang on to money longer and build a good savings. So it's not like the be all or end all, but I felt like it definitely did help me.
Yeah, no, those we'll get into this probably more when we do our Akashic Records episode, but like those contracts definitely need to be cleared up if they're hindering you in these lifetimes.
Yeah.
I've had a
Big
couple myself we'll get into then.
Another thing that we could go in and check out is like relationship conflicts. So you could find out like what happened in a relationship with someone that's close to you in this life, but then you had a past life together. Like, say your mom in this lifetime was actually your child in a past life. And this can, of course, create difficulties and even like marriage issues when it comes to like commitment. If maybe you had like an arranged marriage in a past life, or when families didn't agree with the marriage in a past life, it's creating difficulties in this life. So it's like the list goes on. There's so many parallels there.
Hmm.
Another thing is your soul family members. So this one I found was fun to find out. I had a couple past lives where like my best friend came through and my brother, and they were playing different parts and different roles in different lives. And we can reincarnate with our soul families like over and over again. And we're all like experiencing life at different levels, different genders, races, religions, and it's like we're the same actors, but a different movie and a different role each time.
Yes, I was actually just listening to something about that actually about we all have like soul families and we have this plan and we will always reincarnate with this special group of people. So like everyone again has this soul family. So it is probably like your immediate family. And then yes, you'll keep reincarnating as different. Maybe you're the mom this time, maybe you're the wicked aunt, but there'll be someone close to you for sure.
Yeah. And it's so crazy to think about. Like your brother could be your dad or your mom. And yeah, the list goes on. It's just,
Hmm.
it's pretty wild. And then let's move on to lifelong phobias and fears. So this one is interesting. you can some things, like through my research, I found like people could struggle to lose weight in this lifetime, and that means they could have been starved to death in a past life. So they're hanging on to this food because they're scared to starve. Another one that I found interesting was like, I do this. I always have to have like a water bottle or a glass of water beside me because in my past or in a past life, I could have died of dehydration. Another one could be like beheaded in a past life. This could translate to like neck and shoulder pain, or you could have been hung, so this would affect your neck and throat in this life, or even like pneumonia that can affect your lungs in this life. So it's like the list goes on and on. It's just endless.
Yeah, and I actually have a story about this. So I grew up with a guy who always, well, first off, he had this white patch on the very top of his head. And he had it from ever I can remember. We've known each other since like grade 1. We lived across the street from each other. And he has a really big fear, or not a fear, but he gets super uncomfortable if anyone starts talking about like torture or like kind of things like that. He just like he'll turn it off. Like he just hates talking about it. And I'm just like, I bet you were like electrocuted in a different life because of that white patch like in his hair, and just the way he just hates all of that stuff. And I'm just like, oh, I bet you for sure you were tortured in another life. Or else maybe he was laying on the ground in a thunderstorm. I don't know.
Yeah, they're talking on the phone by the window.
Yeah, and he just hates it. So it was like, I was thinking about that. I was like, I bet you something like that happened. And it's crazy to think that that little white patch in his hair, like, just carried over.
That is fascinating how like a physical thing is like you can see it and it's
Right?
carried on.
No, I
That
would
would be
love to go in and just be like, what happened there?
yeah, what happened? Yeah, I'd be so curious.
Hmm.
Also, so like it's not all bad things in past lives. Like we don't have to go and visit all these tragic deaths and all the turmoil that can happen. We can also like find where your talents and your abilities, so we can activate those. We can have your soul remember them and bring them into this life. So, like, if you think about people that just pick up a musical instrument or a paintbrush or a basketball and they're just really good, like, just right off the hop, they don't even have to practice. I believe it's part of a past life where they were like a great painter or a musician and they're just tapping into that knowledge.
100%.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
that's something I'd like to actually look into myself one day. Because I feel like a lot of the lives we went and visit was a lot of tragedy.
Well, that's unfortunately what comes up, right? Usually something that has a tragic ending needs to be healed. But especially because you're so artistic, I wouldn't be surprised if you're like a painter or something to do within that realm in a different life, right? Like it would just make sense that would kind of carry over that skill
Yeah,
because
I
you're
can
like
totally see
learning it,
that.
you know? Mm-hmm. You could always talk to an expert like Ainslie Macleod.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he's like a past lives like expert, and he can go in and tell you all the good stuff too. Super, super fascinating. We've learned a ton from him.
Oh, yes. I'm a huge fan of him. I was actually listening to a couple podcast interviews today just
I
to
was
prepare for
listening.
this one.
Yeah, same. Me this morning too. And I was like, oh, he's such a good speaker as well.
Oh, he is. And
Scottish.
just like a kind soul and just
Yeah.
like so passionate about this. And he doesn't like put a lot of like fluff into it. He tells you like
Hmm.
it is. It's easy to understand and it's a good place to start if you're curious about it.
Yeah, definitely. We'll put links to his stuff in the show notes.
Yeah. One more thing would be like blockages and patterns that you're dealing with in this life. Like if you keep attracting the same partner and you don't know why, or you keep creating the same pattern of doing the wrong thing, or like there's just a loop of things going on and you don't know why, like there could be something in your past life to look into. Speaking of this Ainslie Macleod, so in the podcast I listened today, he said that you can't truly understand who you are and why you're here, like on Earth, if you don't take into account where you've been and the experiences your soul has had. So I thought that was super interesting that this is why we want to go back and visit the past to see how it's affecting us right now. And it's very validating for clients, like the moment the soul makes that connection, that this was then and this is now, and the healing can happen and we can let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're probably wondering, like, well, why don't we remember our past lives? It's a very valid question, and I've always thought this too. And the reason that you'll find is if we remembered all of our past lives, we would be remembering everything, the good and the bad, all of our disappointments, all of our crimes, all the times we hurt others, things that would just weigh us down, and we wouldn't be able to fully be present in this experience, this incarnation, and we wouldn't be able just to live. Like, we are always trying to expand our soul, and we can't move forward fully if we're always looking behind us. So this is why we choose not to remember. And we also get like a fresh start, a fresh new beginning every time we reincarnate. So, like, let's say, unfortunately, maybe you were kind of a bad guy in a past life. If you reincarnated and you remembered all the people that you hurt, I mean, you wouldn't be getting that fresh over and that chance to learn new lessons, to be a good person this time, and etc.
Yeah, that's a really good example. And you think, isn't it crazy to think about, like, we're all like put back on the earth and given like amnesia? I remember
Yeah,
my Akashic record teacher, she said that, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty wild. And then we're just navigating it and trying to figure it out.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, the game of life, really.
totally.
So it's hard to wrap our heads around this whole past life thing and how everything is happening all at once. So I heard like this concept and then I kind of turned it into my own in my own mind. So the way I like to explain past lives is through like a nature reference through a tree. So when your soul comes into existence, it's a seed and the seed of the tree, and you start to grow your trunk and then your branches and your leaves. So this is representing your soul, and the branches and the leaves are representing like your different lifetimes. So this tree is existing all at once.
Mm.
And yeah, so say like a branch is broken or like something's lopsided, it's going to affect the whole tree as a whole. So when people say like there's no concept of time and everything's happening at once, that this is where like that tree reference kind of makes you wrap your head around it in a weird way. Like I know our human brain can't fathom all of that happening at once. Like I can't. I don't know. It's kind of weird to think about. So yeah, at the end of the day, your soul's a tree and it's all existing at the same time. And so when I found out about this, everything existing at the same time in our past lives, I kind of went into like a bit of a darkness, like realizing that maybe I was a bad person in a past life, and that didn't make me feel very good in this life, and made me feel like this life was just another life on like the tree branch, right? So I kind of went through a bit of darkness figuring this all out. But of course, like you come through it, but it was just kind of hard to swallow at first because once you hear these things, you can't like unhear them or unlearn them.
That's true. I definitely don't think there's such things ever as being like punished though. Like, definitely
Yeah.
don't ever think about it like that. Especially if you're no, you're going through kind of like a darker moment. That's completely normal, and you would never go through something dark. Like, at the end of the day is just an innocent, pure love of soul.
Yeah, because we all go home at the end of the day.
Yeah. So during each life we live, we are here to learn and develop skills, heal or balance karma, and other various things. Our previous lives can bleed into one another. So, like we were saying earlier, like people who have, a deep fear of water and there's no like rhyme or reason to it, they shouldn't be scared of the water, but they naturally have this fear of it. So, that could be something to explore if you ever do come in for Reiki. You can be like, I can't go swimming with my kids and I don't know why I'm scared of the water. That's definitely something we could do during a Reiki session, is just kind of explore it and see if anything does come up. Maybe not, but it's still something we could go in and set the intention for and have a look at.
Oh, of
And
course.
hopefully go back in and, heal it. So then again, you're not carrying it over to even another life as well.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes like if we don't find that fear in your inner child, that's a clue that this could be from a past life, like even a deeper rooted fear than this lifetime. So it's like a whole other ball game.
Yeah, and even sometimes, like when I think I'm going to be doing inner child work, I'll realize that no, we're not with the inner child, we're with a past life. Like it's almost like I can feel the difference or I can tell the difference by who shows up. I don't know if you've ever had that.
I don't know if I have. Yeah, no, that's right. Because like what I see, like if it's medieval times or something, be like,
Right.
okay, this isn't like
Yeah,
your
this
inner
obviously is
child.
not. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, you get all those different clues. Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, going back to Ainslie Macleod. So he said that past life fears can affect our daily life because our soul cannot tell the difference between different lifetimes. So it's like our mind, body, and soul are all happening at the same time. And your soul's like doesn't know if this fear is from this lifetime or a past lifetime. So when that surfaces, we can tell our soul, like, this is not happening right now. This is from the past. We don't have to feel this way right now.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot. That's a pretty heavy thing for people to try to wrap their heads around like that. Also, I came across a website of a man named James Tucker who studied past lives for 20 years and matched it with science. He said children will usually start remembering their past lives when they are around 3 years old, and they will usually fade by the time they reach 6 or 7. These are cases where the child will usually remember traumatic events of their past lifetime. One boy remembered that he was a pilot in World War II, and he remembered that his plane was shot down. He could recall specific details of the name of the plane and his best friend's name who was on the plane beside him. And when they looked into it, everything checked out when they had to dig way back in the history books. And like, there's no way a child like that could remember details that he was saying. So
No.
super interesting.
Yeah, like you said, there's no way this kid would have known any of those details. Like, that would just be wild. That makes me excited, like, when Bo becomes 3, like,
I'm
just kind
already
of seeing what happens.
right. I know, and
Yeah.
I'm going to just nurture whatever comes up. Like, I've seen some crazy stuff on Instagram too about like little kids like playing the piano just perfectly, and I'm just like, whoa, like that's pretty special. So yeah, I'll
Yeah,
nurture,
they're
of
tapping into
course.
that past.
Mm-hmm.
And even like you can look back and see like what your favorite childhood movie was. Like this could bring up a past life. My favorite movie was like Beauty and the Beast. So maybe I lived a life in like a library and just like a simple life or something that is like a memory from a past life that I really enjoy. I
Hmm.
always think of that. And,
Or
you
studying.
know, yeah, or set, yeah, or the Akashic Records, right? In the
Right.
library.
Yeah.
Or even like if you love like a certain era of time, like Egypt or the dinosaurs or space or aliens, like something like you were like obsessed with when you were a kid and you don't know why, you just loved it. This could be linked to something from a past life, I believe. And even makes me think of this one girl in elementary school. She was obsessed with like Greek gods and like the Greek mythology, and none of us were. We're like that. Like I'm not interested in that. It is interesting now, but not when you're like how old.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe she was a professor and she taught that like in a past life, or maybe she wrote a book, or maybe she was actually part of the Greek gods. I don't even know. Like kind of makes you wonder. So if anything comes up with your kids, you can always ask them more about it. Like, why do you love this? And how does it make you feel? Is there emotion that comes up? And just like let them speak freely and just don't shut anything down.
Yeah, I definitely think she probably had like a past life where she was right in the thick of it, you know?
Yeah,
Like we
I
go
think
all the
so
way
too.
back. Hmm. So Christy and I are studying with our teacher Andrea, and so we're getting our level 3 designation, and so we may go in and heal past lives. So interesting story, actually. We thought we would kind of like take you into our training. While we were taking our training, we were in a deep meditation, and our master was opening up our channel for mediumship and to be able to connect with spirit. We were about to cross over this bridge to signify our gift's opening, and all of a sudden I could hear these like hooves coming towards us. And I didn't want to interrupt Andrea, but like we got to hold on a minute here. I could see this group on horses halting us to a stop. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Wild Hunt, but the Wild Hunt, they are a group of warriors in folklore who come and collect the dead after battle, and they kind of rule the afterworld. There's a ton of myths around the Wild Hunt, but this is just one of the stories. You also don't want to get stuck outside when you could hear the hooves or a pack of dogs coming, as you could be swept away and taken with the hunt, never to be seen again. So anyways, I kind of digress here. So we were at this bridge about to cross to open up our awareness and consciousness when we were rudely stopped by this wild hunt. And Christy could see it too. Like we were there together in this subconscious space. It was wild, no pun
It is
intended.
wild. Thinking back, I love when we're both there and we both see the same thing. It just like it gives me chills thinking about it because my logical mind sometimes comes through and is like, is this real? And then it's validated when we're both seeing it. It's like, no, you can't make this up. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of sessions like that where we're both just there together. Like I was thinking that too, or I just saw that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love when that happens. It's just, just that validation. Not that like we always need it, but I love that part. And I did see these dark horses and it was spooky. Like what I saw, it's like almost like an old graveyard scene, like in the forest and all
Yeah.
this like darkness.
Yeah, they're serious
And
business.
oh yeah, and I never knew anything about this, so I learned all about this folklore story. So that was interesting. And I remember them saying like, you can't pass here and we know what you did. And you were like pleading with them like, I'm a good person now. I don't
Oh,
practice
yeah.
this dark magic. And I could feel like your emotion and it was just intense. But yeah, I'll let you get on with the story here.
Yeah, so just to back up a little bit, so my very first appointment with Andrea, she did a past life regression on me. So we went into two lives. The first one, of course, I was a witch and I was burned at the stake, which we healed. And then I wanted to go into past life where I would have some clarity around my love life. But naturally, spirit knows best. And Andrea could see that we needed to specifically address something else that she could see in my Akashic timeline. So in another life, I was a sorceress who was practicing black magic. The only way I could describe what she looked like was like Maleficent off of Sleeping Beauty. Like just not a good person, someone that would just kind of give you the chills, to be honest. This thing had a dark hold on my heart. So Andrea could see my heart and this scratchy blackness all around it. And she asked me, she's like, well, what kind of like magic do you want to practice? Because I was doing cards at the time. And I said, I just want to do white light. Like, that's it. I was almost scared at this point. Yeah, she kind of freaked me out. And so we had to cut this huge cord that this Maleficent had on me. So we took this massive sword and we kept cutting this chain that was tethering us together. And I kept cutting it until the chain finally broke and she was sent off into the light. When this chain broke, I uncontrollably sobbed. Like, I cannot explain this. It was the biggest heart opening that I've ever had, ever. It was almost like I was in a euphoric state for probably 3 days after this. Like, I sobbed. I sobbed so hard. I could just feel my heart expanding. Even when I think about it now, it actually kind of makes me tear up. So I think about how beautiful it was. So I leave her session and like I'm driving home in complete silence and like everything, it just looks like euphoric. I'm looking at the trees and the sky, everything. It was like the first time. And then I had to rush to go to a Tinder date after this. which I can't even believe I went, dude. I literally couldn't stop crying, even on the drive to the date. And I really should have just canceled, but I didn't want to be rude and like literally wiping makeup off my face. I felt so good though on this date. Like I just in a state of pure love. Like, anyways, getting kind of off topic there, but it's kind of funny to add in. That date never really took off either, by the way. So I really should have just canceled. But anyways, so Christy and I were at this bridge, and the wild hunt is there, and they won't let me cross. And then I see this Maleficent in the distance in the woods. So I'm just like, what the hell? Like, she's supposed to be gone. They knew my soul used to be a part of dark magic, and they wouldn't let me cross over. So I couldn't do what I used to do. I believe I even like kind of screwed around with the afterlife, like not good. And they kind of protect that realm and like, so anyways, we had to convince them that I wasn't that same shithead and that I'm only here to serve and use my gifts for good and to help people. And then they like finally let me cross over. But it took all three of us there using that power of three just to the higher energy vibration. So it was super magical. After we crossed, I was actually able to do a reading for Christy. And I channeled Troy's grandfather. That was my first time channeling spirit, like connecting with the other side, like in spirit. And I always wondered why I could never ever connect in with like the Akashics and like connect into that part of with people who have passed over. And like this totally explained it. And Andrea to this day says that is the wildest thing she has ever seen on her table with the heart opening. It's like, it's kind of funny because when I get people on my table now, I want them to have this massive heart opening that I had. And she had to tell me, she's like, man, that doesn't happen. Like that doesn't happen in one session. Like that was you were super open to that. And yeah, so I setting that standard pretty high. But the whole experience was pretty crazy for our Reiki level 3.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely like the highlight of level 3. I just love that story so much because it's just so intense. And I never even thought that's why you couldn't connect, is because it had the hold of your heart. That's just so wild. So that's a perfect example of how your past life can affect this daily life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like when we're doing a past life regression, we're usually taken into like a past life that has like traumatic events or things that are happening that can be directly linked to this scenario. So yeah, I wasn't ever able to communicate with like past loved ones really, or even if I tried to, I'd have dreams and stuff, of course, but to like actually deliver messages. And yeah, they were just like, nope, you're not going to be able to cross. Like we cross a bridge and then we do our thing and then I can connect. It's how I connected. And personally, I know everybody has their own way. But yeah, so that's usually what will happen when we do a past life. We'll connect into something that usually has a direct correlation with this one, like a block.
Yes. Yeah. And go in and check it out and see what needs to be cleared.
And like for a lot of the clients that find us, it's you and a lot of people that are probably listening to this channel and still listening to this, like a lot of the one and a really common one I see is like healing the witch wound.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they've had like a witch experience in a previous life, or maybe you're like a medicine woman or something like that. And now it has completely blocked you off because you were burned for being that person. So you are going to choose not to remember or want to remember any of that past because that is associated with horrible death. So that's a lot of a wound that we will find and heal so people can kind of embrace their natural gifts and abilities.
Yeah, I know I definitely had many, many witch wounds, and that affected my throat chakra, like how to speak about this and being terrified to tell people that I can talk to spirits because of that judgment. Like the fear of being killed for speaking your mind about your belief system. Like I still feel there is a little bit left in me that I am sometimes hesitant. Like, of course, you got to know your crowd, but it's just it can really, really affect you and you don't even know it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, should we share some of our examples of healing some of our past lives?
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot. I even thought of a couple when I was driving home that I didn't write down yet. I was like, oh right. Talk about the one distance Reiki session I was doing on Zoom a couple years ago, because I always think about this. And I was tuning into one of her chakras, and I saw a teenager female in like a medieval dress, and she's running towards a well in distress. Like I saw all of this, and I started telling her about this, and because when these visions come through that clear, I get super excited. And she's like, no, no, no. She's like, I don't want anything to do with a past life. Like, I don't want nothing. And I was just like, what? I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, yep, and end scene. So we closed that down, and we were actually able to look into a inner child wound that needed attention. So I believe like these two stories were connected, and I think we could have got like deeper healing to go into that past life, but she didn't feel comfortable. So of course I didn't push it. I honored what her feelings were, and we just went through with the inner child work. So it was a good learning experience for me, because I just like assume people want to look into the past because it interests me. Like I love it. So it's just you just never know what someone's gonna want to look into.
And you know what? I'm the same way. I've learned that lesson as well. Like now I will ask right away because I have clients that'll come for Reiki and they just want basic Reiki. They don't want to know if an uncle's trying to come through. They don't want to get too deep into the hole. And so like yeah, I've learned to respect and honor that too because I'm the same as you, Christy. I'm just like, give me all the juice.
Yeah.
You got like knock my socks off today is the kind of Reiki session that I want. But yeah, not everybody's on that level.
No, and that's right. We're on that level of where anything can happen, like all the magic, and then someone else might just want to balance their chakras out so they can
Yeah,
sleep better at night, like something
totally.
super simple like that. And of course, we can do whatever you feel is right.
Yeah, and it's all good. It's
Yeah,
all good stuff.
of course. Yeah, we'll hop into one of my past life healings that Amanda and I did together. That this one really stands out to me. So I had a deep fear, like in this lifetime, of my husband being taken away from me and becoming a widower. Like this was like a deep-seated fear. And this sounds intense, but like if Troy didn't answer the phone, I'd get like a weird feeling, send me into like a tailspin of worry, and this would consume me. I'd be sitting there like thinking like all these horrible things that happened, and here he's just like in the yard doing stuff. And then he would phone and everything would be okay. But like that's really hard on our human bodies, like on our nervous system, to go into that fight and flight all the time. So I was like, I need to get to the bottom of this. Like, what is going on? Because I just couldn't focus when I was in that constant state of worry. So Amanda and I did a Reiki session together to see what is going on. So I set the intention to see if a past life was still lingering and causing this paralyzing fear, because I couldn't figure it out on my own. So we were showing a past life where I was a male and Troy was a female, and he was my wife, and we had two kids. And this was like a long time ago. And the scene was us like hugging each other. I was like, well, what's going on here? And here I was going to war. I was going to lead my army in a war. And we both knew it was not likely that I'd be coming back home to my wife and kids. And like this wasn't World War One or two. It was like way back in the day, like when they have like the shield and the sword and that kind of era. I'm bad on my history. I don't even know what
I
year
don't
that
know.
would
I don't
be.
know either, but like I think like medieval gives good people a good
Yeah,
visual. Yeah.
I think so. And so we went to the scene of the war, and we were showing I was like rushing the opposing country, like when they both armies are running towards each other. And you know what's funny is I was watching the movie 300 the other day, and I can't freaking handle that when they're rushing at each other and just like stabbing, and it like almost makes me physically sick. So
Yes.
this kind of like correlates why I wouldn't want to see that, because this is in a past life is actually how I died. So I remember running towards like the opposing country or whoever we were fighting, and I looked over and I seen two of like my right hand men, and at that time I knew it was my brother and my best friend, which was kind of weird. So that goes back to the soul families, how we're all connected. And then we were taken to the scene of my death, because we can fast forward our lives too, like when we're going back to look at them, be like, okay, let's see what happened in the end. And I was stabbed in the back with a sword and I collapsed. And I remember like feeling those thoughts of never being able to see my family again and my wife. And then we were showing my wife crying when she found out the news that I died. So this one was like pretty brutal to watch because it was tragic. And so this is a weird thing that I would do when my husband would, like, okay, so we're back into this lifetime. So Troy works away a lot of the time. And so I have to say goodbye to him. And sometimes I don't know if I'll see him in a week or a month. And it's challenging, but we get through it. And I give him like a big bear hug. And the one time I was like, hug me like you're going to war. And like we laughed about it because we're like, well, where'd that come from? And I was like, I have no idea. And this was before we did this past life healing. So it kind of became like our inside joke. And then after this, it like all made sense. Like, hug me like you're going to war.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was such a good past life. That one was so clear.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And we were on the same page, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that. And I did feel better after the session, but it did take a bit for that worry to go away. Like it didn't go away overnight. It took some time, but I definitely noticed a shift.
It's almost like we could let that wound turn into a scab now.
Yes, that's right.
And then, the scab will eventually fall off and heal. But I mean, before it was still fresh, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't scab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to explain it.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that was very special. And then too, like when we go into those past lives, we always ask if there's a gift that is meant for you now, and there was. Do you remember that?
That's right.
The
I don't
gift he gave
remember
you?
what was the gift.
It was his sword and his shield.
Oh, that's right.
And I know there was a specific meaning to both. Like the shield was for something and the sword was for something.
Yes, you're right. Oh, I got a good memory. And see, this is why I should have written this down.
I probably did. That's why I remember it.
Oh, that's so
Oh.
interesting. Yeah. Oh, I wish I remembered what that was about.
Yeah, journal, guys, journal.
Yeah,
I
write that
beat
shit
this.
down.
I beat this into my dad all the time, and he does, which is good.
And he did. Oh, good.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you want to share one of your past lives?
yeah. So I was actually doing a meditation. Like Christy and I have definitely gone through some good past lives together as well for me, but this one specifically, I was doing by myself. Like I was in a really good meditation, and I was just going through the motions. So I went into a past life and I ended up in this old farmhouse, and I was a man, and I was drinking heavily, sitting on the edge of my bed with like a drink in my hand. And I had returned from war and I had severe PTSD. So I had turned into a real ugly man who drank to cope and who became a really angry, abusive drunk towards his wife. So when you do a past life regression, like me personally, I can take on the emotions of the scene and feel them so deeply in my chest and body. I could feel the complete sadness of this monster that I had become and how I wasn't in control of my life anymore. Like it was absolutely awful. I actually ended up hanging myself in our bedroom closet. And I could see him sitting on the bed, having his last drink, and then I could see him hanging in the closet after. So I called in Archangel Michael to cut him down, cut the rope down and release him. We then Reiki'd him, and then we burnt the noose. So I brought the spirit into the light after and released him from his house. So when you do this, you can actually feel the weight being lifted from your soul. Like I could just feel it, and I could almost feel this light that when he was crossing over, like it was amazing. I'm pretty sure I even released a few tears, to be honest. It is a very interesting thing though. So even in this lifetime, I have a lot of remorse the day after when I drink, like a heavy, heavy guilt. Even when I haven't done anything to feel bad about, like I wasn't embarrassing or, said mean things, whatever could happen. Now, where I am in my life, I barely drink ever. And to be honest, I don't really miss that feeling of getting buzzed, as I know what will follow after. And I have even found a partner that is sober, and I love, love, love that he doesn't drink. I've also been on the other end of the angry drunk that you can't reason with, and I personally choose to really limit when and how much I consume now. So another thing that can kind of happen when you're in part like having past lives, like to balance out karma. So in one life, I can be the abusive, angry drunk that hits my wife. And then in the next life, I can be the victim. So I can know what it feels like to be on the other end of the scenario, to get all the experience in. So just something to take note of as well. So this would be a part of example of my consciousness being stuck between worlds. That heavy grief wouldn't let my soul finally move forward. So we just had to help and like clear the scene.
That's super powerful. And especially like you did that through meditation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Calling in Archangel Michael and just like working it out. But it was very clear, and like I knew where I was. I knew I was a man. Like at first I thought, am I a wife? And then I was like, no, I'm a man. I'm the angry man. And then and then I could just see it all playing out.
And that's like a good way to be like the observer, like not go
Yes.
in and experience like all the pain and shame that went through. Like sometimes you do feel a bit of it, but some you can remove yourself and just like sit on the sidelines and just watch it all play out and see what's going on and how it all relates to each other. But like through a Reiki session, of course, we would guide you
Yeah.
through all of this, and we know where to go, and well, most of the time see what happens.
Yeah. And when I did this one, I didn't know that lesson that we had learned later on about only being the observer and removing yourself emotionally from that. Like we always put up protection around us, but I can still always feel that in my heart, really.
Yeah.
Like I think both of us just being super empathic like that really feel.
Well, yeah, the heart is just feels it all. Like
Yeah.
Troy's like, you're just a big heart. He's like, you just a heart with legs and arms.
Aw, that's so nice.
But it's like, but sometimes it really sucks because things hurt so bad. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about another past life?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So this one was actually just recent, like last week. And I was in Egypt in my past life, and I was on a pursuit, and I left my village, and I had zero support from my village. I'm not sure what kind of voyage this was, but I was on my camel on my way to somewhere. And I ended up getting lost in the desert, and I began to realize that this might be it for me because there was no one around. I had no water, and I was just ready to give up. Like I just like was overcome with that feeling of darkness. Like there's no point on going on. This is it. I'm gonna just, you know, lay over here and die. So, which is awful, right? But all of a sudden, this guy found the grit inside of himself. Like he dug so deep down inside of himself to keep going. And he ended up keep going, and he lived. He got to whatever pursuit he had to go to, and I'm not sure what happened after that, as my guides didn't really show that part, as they said the message that they wanted to for me to see was finding that big push when you feel like there's no way out. It's like digging deep and finding that perseverance to keep going. And it was just like a really important message for me to hear in my life right now, as I'm moving through like a bit of darkness and I'm trying to navigate my way through it. And sometimes it feels like it's super hard. But knowing you have this fight inside of you, and change begins with yourself. Like, you can do all the Reiki healing and you can see all the different healers, but really we are just like the messengers between the spirit world and you. It's what you do with the information going forward is how you integrate it into your life. And I believe that's like where the true healing begins. Oh, it was just, yeah, that was a really, really powerful message. That one rocked my world.
Yeah, that's super powerful and a really good note for anyone else who's might be going through kind of a darker time right now too.
Yeah, to look inside, don't look outwards. Like, of course, get help, like if you want help, but at the end of the day, you're the one that has to make that change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I have one more quick, I guess, kind of a neat story. My friend gave me permission to share this, but we did a past life regression, and so we ended up at this like old house, kind of like on a farm somewhere, and it was her and her daughter in this house, and somebody just randomly broke into the house and attacked her. And I believe like killed her and her daughter. And my girlfriend like kind of like broke kind of like out of the session, and she was like, I am terrified of home invasions. Terrified, she goes. And I've known her my whole life. And I said, what? She goes, yeah, when my spouse is out of town, I triple lock the doors, and I even have like a bat by my bed. Like, I am terrified. And I said, whoa, like, you've got to be kidding. So again, just another example. We of course healed the room in the session and like that in that farmhouse, and moved everyone into the light and brought peace. But like, yeah, just another example of like, what a crazy thing. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, that's crazy how she didn't have anything happen in this lifetime to have that kind of fear.
Yeah, like I don't ever have fears. Like, yeah, I lock my doors, but I'm not like what if somebody comes in? Like I'm not
Yeah,
stressing or losing sleep over it ever, you know?
that's intense.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, that just shows how powerful it is.
yeah. Do you have many more stories you want to share before we wrap up?
The one that came to my mind when I was driving home that I totally forgot about was like the howling wolves. Remember that story?
I don't
Don't
know.
know. Okay, well, let me tell.
Like I probably will when you tell me.
Yeah, this will definitely, you'll remember this one. So I remember when I was a kid and I was at the lake and I could hear like the coyotes or the wolves howling in the distance, and it freaked me out, like to the point where I'd almost cry. My parents were probably like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, it just gave me chills down my spine. I just hated it. Yeah, so a past life that we went into, I should have wrote this one down. I don't have all the details, but I'm just gonna go with what I remember. It was Halloween, and I was like dressed up as a witch, and I was probably in like my 30s, and I went home after like being out and about, like with the kids and whatnot, and my husband was there, and I decided to pull like some tarot cards because I was really into tarot and reading and all the witchy stuff, like the good witchy stuff. And he was super triggered by this. He didn't believe any of it. He thought I was throwing my life away by focusing on all this witchy things. He just hated it, where he grabbed the table of cards and he threw it into the fire.
Oh, I remember now.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I do. I remember. Oh, it is a good story.
Yeah, this one's intense.
It
And
is. Oh,
uh, so this wasn't like the first time that he was like super aggressive towards me. And what happened after that? Oh yeah, so I knew that he was going to get mean after he threw the cards in the fire. So I decided to run out the back door. And he ended up running after me. And we were running in the forest. And he ended up catching up to me. And he chained me to a tree. Like, this sounds so awful. Sounds like a horror movie. But yeah, he chained me to a tree and said, well, if you're so magical, you'll be able to get out of this mess. And I was thinking, well, no, like I'm not. Like I'm just reading some tarot cards here, predicting the future, baby. Like I can't unlock something. And so he ended up walking back to the house and like kind of snickering, like, well, there you go, get what you deserve. And when I was sitting there thinking, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? I heard the coyotes or the wolves howling. And I was like, oh shit. Uh-oh. Like, what do I do? So what actually ended up happening is a pack of wolves came and they killed me. Like I was killed alive by a pack of wolves. Like
You gotta wonder if some people were like, I wonder if she talked to the wolves. No,
yeah.
the wolves saved her. No,
No, they didn't. They turned on me and killed me.
naturally.
Oh.
They kill yeah.
Oh, like what a way to die. And you know what? Yeah, that's another thing if I see in movies like animals attacking humans, like that one Leonardo movie that just freaks me out. But anyway, so my husband ends up coming back to check on me and realizes I was eaten alive and obviously feels awful about it. And he ended
Real
up
shook up.
coming. Oh yeah. He ended up coming home, didn't know what to do, and he tried to like live his life and he tried to move on, which he ended up going into like a deep depression and he ended up taking his own life.
Yeah,
And
I'm pretty sure he lived in your house, didn't
yeah, yeah, he did. That's right.
he? Yeah.
Like, what a real loser. Like, and we ended up linking this husband back to a boyfriend that I dated in this lifetime that was not a nice person. Like, he didn't tie me up to a tree or anything, but
Yeah, he's one step up.
yeah. So it just like, so then going back to having the fear of hearing the coyotes at nighttime is just, yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. That is so such a good story. And yes, we did that together. Oh, so good.
Yeah, we did. That was an interesting one. I remember when we first seen the scene, it was like Halloween. We're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's gonna be fun," and then all of a sudden it turned dark.
I know. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's so funny. Like it's not, but
Well, oh yeah, we can
Yeah.
laugh about now. It's
Yeah, we-
healed. It's in the past.
yeah, that's when you know you've healed.
Yeah, that's so true. And I can hear like howling now, and it doesn't bother me as much. So
Oh, good, good.
yeah,
That's when you know we did our job, right?
yep, that's
Um,
right.
So also there is a step-by-step process that you can do to help you remember past lives on Gaia.com. Or of course you can book a Reiki session with your Reiki practitioner if they do that. Or with a person who specializes in past life regressions, of course. Like, or you can even probably reach out to that Ainslie Macleod, you know, just to get more information on some past lives if you are new to the whole process. It can be kind of tough to trust the information that is coming through to you. So it might be better to have somebody guide you and kind of help you stay a little distant from what does come through. So like when we go through a past life regression with a client, we always go in together. We make sure the space is protected, we are grounded, and we have Archangel Michael to help heal anything that may be needing healing. So a traumatic death or any kind of like heavy feelings, we always have our archangels there to support us and protect us. And only like love and light will ever be allowed in. Nothing can physically hurt you, of course, anything like that. So we'll also link that website in the show notes as well, that Gaia.com. Just something neat I found if somebody wanted to like see if they could go in on their own, like kind of like I did through a meditation, something you could try.
Yeah, that's a great way to start. And yeah, with New Earth Angel Reiki, it's super gentle, super protected.
Okay, so we're going to end off our episode with our card pull, or instead of a card pull today, Christy, you have a message that you channeled.
Yeah, so I'm not at my house this week, so I didn't bring my cards, which is funny because I usually bring one deck. No matter where I go, I always have a deck of cards, but I didn't today. So I thought, well, what message could I channel? And being that we talked with Rhonda about the angels and how she connects with them, I was like, well, I should try and connect to the archangels and see if they have any messages to share. So I connected with Archangel Michael. He's someone that we work with a lot in our Reiki sessions because
Hmm.
he's like the protector. He's like the bodyguard. He's just
Oh,
the best. Like one
A
of my
plus.
favorites, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. So this message, I asked him like, what do the podcast listeners want to hear? And he said, if times seem tough and you're moving through darkness, just know that you can unload your thoughts and feelings onto me. I can take the load off your shoulders. Relax your shoulders and your jaw, for you have been tense for too long. The fight is almost over. You can become your worst enemy by playing along with the mind games in your mind. Just know you are in control and ask me to take these uncomfortable thoughts and feelings away from you as I have the power to do so. So, in return, though, you must be grateful for the life you have right now. And think of 3 things that you are grateful for to raise your vibration instantly and get you out of the lack mindset. So remember when things get uncomfortable, just know you're moving into a new direction. And yes, it's going to be a bit of a shock, especially to people who enjoy their comforts, but just know that you're loved and you're held by the divine, and just ask for guidance and help because we are always here.
Mm.
So that almost felt like a message directly for me, but
But there's probably a lot of people right now who needed to hear that as well. And when you started off, when you were like, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, I was immediately was like, yes. Like I had to have a bath tonight before we recorded because I needed to relax too. So it was super fitting message.
yeah, I hope that that resonates with someone, and you can, of course, call upon Archangel Michael to help you through anything, really.
Yeah, and practicing that gratitude, 3 things, super easy. I do it every single morning. I make a point to do it. Like 3 things. What am I grateful for every morning? And
I
that just
love that.
sets you off. I mean, some mornings, you might have to dig a little deeper, but I'm sure you're grateful for the coffee you're drinking. You
Yeah,
know? Absolutely. So like there's one. And I'm grateful I woke up today. And yeah, just yeah, great message.
yeah, yeah. I enjoyed that. So I found this quote from Dolores Cannon. She's someone else that if you ever want to look into past life regressions, she's like the queen of it. She's super fascinating. But this quote I found very fitting to end our episode today. And she said, "This life may be compared to playing one instrument in a large orchestra. Naturally, you cannot play all the instruments at the same time. You can only focus on your part of the beautiful symphony. Although in the entire orchestra and all the music comprises the totality of who you really are."
Beautiful.
Thanks for listening to our episode. We hope you learned something new and was inspired. And you can find us on Instagram at Living the Reiki Life.
And you can find our personal handles at Reiki with Manda.
And mine is The Birch Soul.
It would also really help us out if you gave us a 5-star rating and review.
Yes, it really helps us out in the podcast world.
And we will see you next time.
Ciao for now.
1,